Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Motion for Mindfulness podcast, where we file motions in court and in our own lives so we can continue to be even better lawyers and continue serving our clients. I'm your host, Bethany Allen, a member of the 2024-2025 Missouri Leadership Academy class. The Missouri Bar is excited to offer a special podcast as a part of the Leadership Academy's efforts to raise awareness and inspire lawyers to reflect and taking action during Wellbeing in Law Week, May 5th through 9th. Wellbeing in Law Week is a national initiative from the Institute of Wellbeing in Law that is helping lawyers not just survive, but thrive. Because when we're at our best, we can achieve clarity, well-being, and fulfillment in our practice. In these episodes, we'll talk about one of the biggest challenges that lawyers face: work-life balance, work-life integration, spiritual well-being, physical well-being, and a whole list of other things. Today's focus is all about one of the most powerful things a lawyer can control is their spiritual well-being. As lawyers, we must shift our mindset from frustration to focus to better serve our clients. And with me today, I have two of my Leadership Academy classmates, which is Koki Sabatés and MJ Ortiz. And I'm just going to ask you ladies some questions kind of geared towards spiritual well-being and how that affects our practice and us as lawyers. So I kind of want to start off by asking, what does spiritual well-being mean to you as a lawyer?
I think that's a great question. Spiritual well-being, I think there's like different approaches that you can take to it, but for me personally, it's about mindfulness. I think that when I practice mindfulness, it's, and for me, my practice of mindfulness is literally just like taking 5 minutes, 2 minutes. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, I was telling Koki earlier, like sometimes it's like me going to the bathroom and like, being in a stall for just like a couple minutes to myself to just reflect, to think, and to like get myself hyped for whatever it is that I'm going to go into. And so for me, it's about that, about reflecting on like, okay, what is going on? Take a minute, breathe, and then keep going, move forward. That's how I feel like I practice spirituality and that.
Yeah, that's great. I think that mindfulness aspect is something we don't always put at the forefront of what we do. As far as our own selves within us, we're more so putting our mind towards clients and a lot of things we do, but it's also important that we hone into ourselves as well to kind of give that back to clients and give that back to our work. So what about you, Koki? What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think that for me, spiritual well-being as a lawyer is presence, right? And that's just knowing the things I can control and the things I can't control. And the things I can control are my attitude towards a situation. I can control how hard I work on something. I can control how I explain something to my client. Those are the things that I have control of. So if it's out of my hands, it deserves peace from me. You know what I mean? So that for me is the big thing of just knowing that I can only control what's right in front of me, and the rest I just have to just put it out there and trust it'll work out and be fine.
Do you think that was easier for you to do at the beginning of your career, or has it been something that you've had to kind of process over time?
It's been a time thing for sure. I mean, I think that when you start off, like your first few months of practice, you just don't even know what to do, right? It's so overwhelming. And I feel like I'm a COVID baby lawyer because I became licensed during the pandemic. So much of those first few months of my practice was like, is this a me thing? Is this a St. Louis thing? Is this a firm thing? Is this a COVID thing? And so just kind of like disentangling all that was really difficult. But now that I've, cut my teeth a little bit more and worked at several different firms and talked with a lot of lawyers, been around different lawyers, like this is what's great about Leadership Academy is there's folks that I get to interact with and learn about their struggles and issues and things in their practice that I would never otherwise have, right? So it's definitely been a time thing.
Wow. Can you kind of expand a little bit more on the transition from law school going right into the practice during COVID, as far as like that spiritual component? How did you balance knowing personally what to do for yourself while also trying to jump into this profession?
Ooh, how much time do we have? I mean, no,
a couple minutes.
Yeah, it was really challenging. There was just a lot of things going on, and honestly, I just remember my mom telling me, because I I think like we all may have done, I certainly did blame so much on the pandemic, right? And
It was a crutch.
yeah, it was like, this will get better once the pandemic's done. This will get better. And then my mom said to me, you know what, Koki, there's always going to be a pandemic. It's not going to be COVID, but it's going to be something in your life. And I was like,
So true.
you know
Come
what?
on. Yeah.
Yes, Lupe. Yes. Like, that's true. Because so, I think it was just kind of like trying to get peace with that and knowing like, yeah, there's always going to be that thing that's out of my control. So what is it that I can control? And again, that's that going back to my attitude towards something. And that honestly, I feel like it's just a time thing. And it's so frustrating because there's like other lawyers I worked with that they would tell me that. And I'm like, okay, I get it. But it really is like a time thing. So back to the original question, kind of like navigating all that. I was thankful to have started at a firm where I was a summer at. So having those relationships established already was really good. Being in a city where I had some other friends helped. That was good. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was just taking it one day at a time, right?
And I think that's kind of what you have to do in this profession, especially if you want to be able to serve clients when you're first starting out, taking one thing one day at a time, knowing what they're doing it the best we can do. We're doing the best that we can do under circumstances like the pandemic.
Yeah.
Right. Those are things that are beyond our control, but how do we control how we move through it to better serve the legal community? So that's great. How do you all personally define purpose in the legal profession? What does that look like? What does purpose look like spiritually for you?
Yeah. Purpose in the realm of spirituality for me, like especially in the legal profession, I think has a lot to do or is really interconnected with like community and connection. And like I think Koki talked about this, how like she was leaning into her colleagues and those relationships to kind of navigate, being a lawyer, a fresh lawyer during the pandemic. I was going through law school during the pandemic, so like I could relate to that of being like, is this just a COVID thing, or is this really what this profession looks like? And so I think as I'm a year and a half out since I've been barred, and like I'm working in this professional setting now. Really relying on community for me is how I've been able to find purpose. Because I feel like whenever I engage in things that feel meaningful to me, then that like fills my cup and allows me to, serve, in my case, my clients or my students.
Right. We all have a different version of what a client is. So
yeah. I have to be fully present. I think that's like another aspect to it. It's like if, or by being intentional, I am able to be more present in situations with clients, my students in this case. But even in my relationships, professional relationships, I think, that's a big part of what community is, the connection.
Yeah, that's good. I think purpose for me is certainly, clients are coming to us on the worst day of their lives, right? And they are putting a lot of trust in us. And what we do is we have one of the most stressful jobs in the world. And because clients are coming to us on the worst days of their lives. And so those moments where they say like, I feel so much better. Thank you. Or you really explained that to me well, or something like that. Like those just makes it all worth it. And so I think being a helper and being an advocate to me is the most important purpose I have behind being a lawyer. Because again, like these are folks that we're helping that they need help. They're in pain. They're sick, and they need help. And they're in this system that they do not understand works. And sometimes, let's be real, as lawyers, we don't always understand how it works. There's an appellate system for a reason, right? It's because, and I tell that to the mock trial students I work with all the time, like this stuff's really tricky and difficult. And there's a reason why you go to school for 3 years and take a really hard test and, all of that stuff. And so, having, the responsibility of explaining how that works and breaking that down for someone that's not even close to, being in that system and understanding it, it's really rewarding. And it's what makes me go to work every day.
No, that's great. I think piggybacking off a lot of the things you said, making sure that we do what's right for those clients who might not understand certain aspects of the legal system. How do we show up competently representing them, whatever the client looks like, with our students or whatever it might be? We want to make sure that I think our purpose kind of pushes those initiatives forward and make it makes it the forefront of our lives in that sense. So,
Yeah.
and you also said something else that kind of sparks my next question about kind of like that gratitude that clients show for what we do for them or just in general. Do you believe that maintaining a sense of gratitude impacts your well-being as a lawyer?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. I literally have a folder in my email that says it's called Atta Girl. And it's literally
love that.
it's literally anytime, and obviously there's thousands of emails in there.
Of course.
Like anytime a partner
Gotta be.
yeah. But there's anytime a partner gives me a like Atta Girl, like like a good job, because I think that again, like this is what we do is like really hard and it's draining, and if you don't have those moments of expressing gratitude towards every person you work with, then it really makes it difficult to show up every day. And at my firm we do shout outs. We have a all hands meeting every morning, and we do shout outs, and every shout out we do is always tied to our core values, and it creates such a great sense of teamwork. And that's a huge part of being a lawyer too, is that we cannot, that we are all on this ship trying to row, and sometimes as a lawyer you have to be you're the one in the back calling, row, and other times you're up in the front, and sometimes you're holding both the oars, and sometimes the boat is sinking, right? It just so anyway, I think that when you express gratitude towards everybody, and even in your firm, to the partners that take the time, that sit down and explain things to you. I mean, that especially if you're in a firm that bills, like that's money that they're spending on you to help you. And so expressing that gratitude. I mean, I've had so many people that have sat down and just taken time like out of their weekends to explain things to me. And it's made me a better lawyer. And it's made me, want to carry that tradition forward and do the same thing for other young lawyers and stuff. And so, I mean, I think that's what helps the whole thing go forward, is by showing gratitude, and especially even our adversaries, right? Like just just showing grace to each other. Like, like thank you for giving me that extension, so I don't have to go file a motion and spend money in court and waste everybody's time. It just like simple things like that. I think that it just makes it easier to do the job.
I think you make a good point about recognizing like this takes a village. It's like you're constantly working with other people. Again, a type of community that we're in, the legal profession itself. And I'm a big proponent of, giving people their flowers. And I think that comes from other mentors that I've had and other people that have really encouraged me and made me feel like you're doing a good job. You're doing like, keep up the good work. So it's like, I feel compelled then to continue that, and to also let people know when they're doing a good job or when something, because they put a lot of effort into it. It's recognizing somebody's effort. That's ultimately what gratitude is, I feel.
Especially when you don't know how that one piece might like work for them. Like I'll give you an anecdote, right? I went up to school in Minnesota, and like I'm probably exaggerating, but like at 4:00 it was like pitch black, dark. I mean, it was really dark. It was in Duluth, Minnesota. It's like right off Lake Superior. And that was a Thanksgiving. It was me the first Thanksgiving without my family. And I was very sad. And it was just like, there was just a lot going on for me at that time. And like, I didn't have a car up there because I didn't have 4-wheel drive. And there was just like a lot of hills. And I had a bike that was my mode of transportation, but someone stole it. And so it was just like, I just had a lot going on. And I took the bus every day, and there was this man that always took the bus too, and he was in a wheelchair, like an electric wheelchair, I guess you could say. And I was sitting there feeling like really sorry for myself, and he just looked at me and he just said, "Happy Thanksgiving." And I was like, and I just, I just said, "Thank you. You too."
Yeah, I just know what kind of day you're having.
Yeah, and I just, like I just needed to hear that. I just needed to hear Happy Thanksgiving, right? Yeah, he acknowledged me, and and I just that did a lot for me in that moment. And there's just small things like you can do. It costs $0 to do.
Right,
that.
it's been that like that spirit, like to get through the day. Kind of, I love the idea of having the folder. I think a lot of lawyers should implement things like that, because it doesn't happen all the time where someone takes a couple of minutes, and especially as like a young lawyer, we love that affirmation that we're doing a good job, that we're serving our clients, that we're showing up the way that we need to show up. So those little tidbits of appreciation and gratitude can go a long way for our spirit and how we feel enthusiastic about our work. And I'm sure that's like something that you kind of see as far as your students, right? I'm sure they are very grateful. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
even
that
if it's like small things too, which is like the funny thing. Sometimes like it doesn't have to be anything super insane, like a big gesture, but just like letting someone know, like, I appreciate that you helped me with this. I hear that all the time, and it does go a long way, because again, it makes the work feel that much more meaningful. It's like, yeah, I helped someone, I did something. That's the human experience.
And that's also what I love about, you know, our Leadership Academy group. It's just, it's such a great blend of people. And, you know, like, for example, like you, like before we started recording, you were making sure that you nailed saying my last name, right? And I really appreciate that, because that is my name. And, you know, and just that cost you nothing to do. It's just, and you wanted to do the right thing. And I appreciate that. Right. And so just those little gestures that we can do, I think impacts so much your day-to-day well-being in this job, because at the end of the day, this is a really hard job. It's a really, really hard job. And if you don't have a good spirit, if you don't have a good attitude, you aren't going to be able to be the best lawyer you can be, and you're not going to be able to serve the best interests of your clients. And so if we foster that kind of gratitude, I think it would really help our whole profession, truly.
I have one final question. What is the biggest lesson you've both learned about focusing on your attitude versus those external factors that we can't control? Quick answer.
Biggest lesson, focusing on my attitude.
Like stuff you can control, right? We can control how we show up to court. We can control how we interact with our clients, but we can't control that the courthouse got closed early.
Yeah.
And now we can't argue this motion. You know, how do we,
I think that sometimes, like, I've had I don't have a specific example in mind, but sometimes like it's worked out for the best, right? Like the things I can't control worked out in my favor, right? Like I can't control that, like that opposing counsel, like, wouldn't get their reply to me on something, but oh, well, actually they just dismissed their case entirely. So that worked out well. Like, I mean, I don't know if that's the best example, but like that was something that was out of my control. Like when they were going to file something, and I've had that happen a few times actually, where they, instead of like replying to summary judgment or something, they just might dismiss the case entirely or give me a call like, hey, yeah, we're gonna, whatever.
I think for me, the lesson is like, well, I'm still trying my best. I'm still showing up. I'm still giving this my all. And, you know, the fact, like, that gives me solace, like knowing that like I did my best that I could. It's out of my control now. I hope for the best. But at least on my end, I'm like, I'm trying.
right?
Yeah. Out of my hands, out of my mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I want to thank you both for the time you've spent talking about, you know, the spiritual well-being. That's all we have for this episode of Motions for Mindfulness. It has been great speaking with you two. And just remember that Wellbeing in Law Week is May 5th through 9th. And it's crucial time for us to reflect on the importance of lawyer well-being and how we can show up in the legal profession to best serve our clients. And we'll see you next episode.